All right, here we go. Today we have James Slim Bouler, former golf and gambling partner of Michael Jordan, whose story was highlighted in The Last Dance. Welcome to VladTV.
Welcome to be here.
Well, this is our first time sitting down, so I want to get your whole story. So where did you grow up exactly?
Well, I grew up in South Charlotte, which is off of West Boulevard. And downtown, we moved from West Boulevard to downtown Charlotte, which was South Tryon and Sunset.
Okay, and I understand that your parents were kind of struggling growing up, that you were actually in a house without running water.
Oh, man, we were so poor, but we didn't know what poor was because we never experienced anything for what we always had in our household. We didn't have water, lights, not bathrooms.
Wow. During that time, if we're talking about the 50s and the 60s, what were some of the hardest things that you had to go through? Because this was kind of during segregation time.
Well, at an early age, during that particular time, we didn't have much. But what we had in our home was love, plenty of love and understanding. And that's where the form of respect came in. We respect our mothers, our fathers, and our elders.
Okay, so at what point did you actually get into golf?
Well, it was 12. See, where we lived at was directly across the street from Carolina Country Club. And my grandmother paid her rent to Carolina Country Club because we rented the house from them. And every month, the pro would ride up to our house in a little golf cart, a little easy go, to pick up his rent money. And it fascinated me because we didn't have a motor vehicle. And it seemed like 90% of the places we went, we had to walk. So at the age of 12, I started caddying at the golf course to, raise a little money for the household as well as myself. So, one thing led to another, and then just to watch it, I got fascinated because we didn't even have a TV, not even a radio, because we didn't have no power in the house that I grew up in.
Okay, and what's interesting is that Black people weren't even allowed to play golf until 1957.
Well, that might be true, but on the other hand, when I became 12, when I was caddying, in the book that I wrote, I Bet on Air and Lost It All, you will find an article in there where I'm 12 years old, walking down the fairway, and I asked the guy that I was caddying for, I asked him, I said, could I hit a shot down the fairway? He looked across to his playing partner and said, this little nigga want to hit a golf ball. We all know that niggas are only made for caddying. Now, I was 12 years old at that particular time. When he used those type of words, I didn't understand because I grew up in a house where we didn't hear that. And I never been around it. And so I know it sounded rough, but being 12 and being naive at the particular time, it's kind of hard. So at the age of 22, I'm 10 years older. I experienced a little bit more of the world than I had at 12. And I ran into this young man in a particular golf tournament, and I walked up to him and I asked him, do you remember me? He looked, no, he gave me the, why should I remember you? I say, I'm the same little nigga that you called me at the age of 12 when I was caddying for you at Carolina Country Club. Now, I'm 22. What can we do? How can we make this thing right? Now, we could play for any amount you want to play for because I was ready. I was taught you kill a mosquito with a sledgehammer. I never bared down or felt like I was in a lower class because I had the ability, and I had the, like we just say, the nerves of steel, and it didn't bother. The money didn't bother me. The money didn't bother me whatsoever. What I had in my pocket, I would put it in the window. I would bet it all.
Did you end up beating him?
I think you can answer that question.
There you go. Okay, so you started getting better at golf, and you started to build up your money by essentially betting on games, right?
Yes.
And I guess by the 80s, you had made enough money to actually buy your own pro shop.
Yes. And not only gambling, and then you learn that when you playing with your money, it's a different game, because if you don't win, you don't eat. And then when you get to the point where people come in and want to give you money to bet with, then you get a percentage, then you can just about free yourself up a little bit. And
Okay.
it was real, it was real nice. And then we didn't have the opportunity to play on the PGA because I didn't have money. Coming from the South Charlotte, it was hard. So I had to do what I had to do to make it.
Well, when I was doing research on you, were there some sort of cases that happened, I guess, in the early 80s? There was a cocaine case or a firearm case or something like that?
Oh, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I had beat a guy out of maybe $35,000 in Atlanta. On my way home, he gave me some drugs. He said, take this cocaine, and you probably won't go to sleep driving back to Charlotte. See, it didn't faze me because I never drank, never smoked, never took any type of narcotics or drugs of any sort. And I'm 71 years old, and I'm still drug-free, alcohol-free, smoke-free. And the nurse told me last week, that I had a body of a 35-year-old man. I said, where it at? So I was at home in Monroe, chipping in my front yard, practicing locally, and a girl came by. I'll never forget it as long as I live. A girl came by, her name was Diane, and the undercover agent she had with her, his name was Hodge. And they asked me, do I know where they can get some drugs? I said, nah, I don't know where you can get no drugs. I don't know. And then I thought about it. I said, yeah, Diane, go in there and look on my kitchen table. And you could find some on my kitchen table. Then y'all guys can have it. So when she came out, he approached me and said, man, we got to pay you for this. I said, no, I don't need any money. You can have it. No, we got to pay you. So I said, I'll tell you what you do. Whatever you give me, I'll donate it to the church, and that'll be a donation from you, but I don't need any money. That was in May. June, July, August, September, November. They came to my front door looking for drugs every day. No drugs. Then I go to court December the 3rd for a secret indictment. I go to court, and I'm placed on probation, which they gave me for $45, which I didn't know anything about the law. It was a felony. Now, I love to hunt and fish, and I'm a country boy. So one particular day, I was in the woods hunting, and I was deer hunting, and I had a 30-06, Smith & Browning 30-06. And when I come out of the woods, the man wanted the gun. He didn't want me, he wanted the gun. That's how I got a case with a convicted felon with a firearm and a drug case.
Okay, so here you are running the shop and making money, golfing, And then one day, Michael Jordan shows up in a course down the street.
Right.
So what happens when you find this out?
Well, I'm in the shop. It was Golf Tech on Roosevelt Boulevard in Monroe. And a guy come running through the door. He said, Slim. I said, what you want, man? He said, Michael Jordan down to the golf course. I said, I don't care about that. What you want? Well, man, they down there gambling. I said, what? He said, yeah. I said, what they playing for? Whatever, 50, 100, I don't know. I don't have no money to get in the game, so what are they playing for? So I said, well, I looked over my shoulder. You say 50s, 100s, or whatever? He said, yeah. So I looked over my shoulder, and I called one of the guys that work with me, that hustle with me around the world. I said, George, get my golf clothes. We going to work. Let's go to work. He grabbed my golf clothes. We jumped in my car, and we went to the golf course. And I caught Jordan them coming up number 9. And I walked over, I said, man, can I get in y'all game? Can I play? He said, well, whatever. I said, well, he smiled and I smiled, and he was running the show, so I'm very, very quiet. Now just remember, kill a mosquito with a sledgehammer. You don't need to put any brags on what you can do. Just be quiet and enjoy the atmosphere. So we started playing from that moment until the end that we played was in Hilton Head. That was the last time I seen Michael other than in the courtroom.
Okay, so you meet him that day. This was like 1985, I think?
Yeah.
And I guess you won 200, then you doubled it, then you tripled it. I mean, by the end of the day, how much money did you win from Michael Jordan?
Well, I don't know. Like I would say, it was more than $10, but less than $1 million. Okay. So you could put the number between.
How good of a golfer was Jordan?
Michael was just starting. Really, he was a competitive, and he loved to gamble. He loved to play. And it's hard to take a defeat. And, I could say I wasn't played in basketball. And he was all right, but he couldn't beat me.
Okay. And I mean, Jordan's gambling really over the years, there's been some crazy stories. I remember Charles Barkley said that Jordan wanted to play him for $300,000 a hole and stuff like that.
I would too. Especially Charles Barkley.
Okay. So you guys started to play around the Charlotte area, but then Michael Jordan had these big weekends at his vacation house in Hilton Head Island.
Right.
So describe the first time you went out there, what that was like.
Oh, well, let's back up. Let's back up a little bit. We played a lot of different places. I mean, from La Costa, when Michael got married, we played his first black fundraising golf tournament was in La Costa. Then that was real good. I met a lot of people at that particular place, and Lake Tahoe, up there doing the celebrity golf tournament. I was involved in that. I was up there with them, and it was so many good times. And man, it's not all about the like the world portrays us as gambling and hustlers and the money. The money was great. To me, it was business. I never forget where I come from, and I respect each and every one. But the only thing that's in this book that I wrote, it tells from a little guy that came from dirt. So think about the song Aretha Franklin made, Spanish Harlems. How can a rose penetrate through concrete and make it? They're just like me. I come from an outhouse to a penthouse to a jailhouse and still making it. And it's hard, but it's fair. A story where a young man come through a time where everything is against him. And I'm going to give you one thing that happened to me last week. The same golf course where the man called me at 12 years old a nigger, hitting a golf ball down the fairway. I'm delivering bread now. I goes back to this golf course. Just by curiosity, I asked the guy that was in the caddy shack, the security shack, and I asked him. I said, "Man, can I play? What can I do to hit a golf ball?" "Well, it's closed. It's for members only." I said, "Okay, baby. All right. Ain't no problem." Now, I understand Carolina Country Club is private. I understand that. But just the curiosity to see back 60 years ago and what we're having today, it's nothing changed. Yeah, I can drink with you. I can eat with you. But in the back of your mind, like a friend of mine said, don't take a sleeping pill. Don't fall asleep. Don't go through life thinking that everything going to be all right. And at the end of the day, you're right back where you started.
Well, Jordan would have something called a big group, which was a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a big group and a little group. The big group, those are the better golfers. The little guys, they're so-so golfers. And then some of the little guys, they go bet what the big group bet. And if you can't stand the heat, get out the pot.
Right. And I guess the big group would bet up to $1,000 a hole.
Oh, yeah. Some of it more than that.
Okay. Well, and I guess this whole, these weekends that were set up at his vacation house, it was like 15 to 20 guys. They'd arrive around 7 a.m., eat breakfast. And then by 8 a.m., you guys were on the course making wagers.
Yes.
And Jordan also played a lot of cards, played a lot of poker that he bet on, but you were not a card player.
Well, no, I'm not a card player, but I understand that one particular time Michael was on the road, and I told him, I said, "Man, I want 10% of your action, cause I like action." He told me, he said, "Okay." So I don't know how much he won, but what he gave me, the money that he gave me the next day, he told me, he said, "Now you ain't getting no more of this here. You ain't getting no more of my action." I said, "Well, that's fine. I'll take this right here, and I'm thankful for that." And I watch a lot of guys play cards, and I watch a lot of different things go down. But at least one thing about it, when we were together as a group, the manhood go to the side. We act more like kids and boys playing football. And I said to myself, I say, "Now Mike out here playing football, if something happened to his legs, what they gonna do?" I mean, he's a number one basketball player, and we out here playing tackle, and we trying to kill each other. We were not, just normal people having fun.
Well, by 1991, Jordan led the Chicago Bulls to the NBA Finals, where he won his first NBA championship when he beat Magic Johnson and the LA Lakers. So then it was customary after winning the NBA Finals that everyone from the team would go visit the White House.
Right.
And, although these days a lot of people skip White House, visits, Jordan was one of the first ones to actually skip it. And he said that he couldn't make it to the White House because he had a family vacation that was planned. But in fact, he went out with you and the other guys to the island to go play golf and gamble. Is that pretty accurate?
That's true. Yeah, we played and we played and we enjoyed it. And it was a lot of money changing hands, but still, I didn't ask any questions about visiting the White House or anything like that. But during that particular time, but later on down the road, where Michael had to come and testify in my trial, I realized then that the trial was more or less a political trial on my end, because, like I said in the beginning, when you go from an outhouse to a penthouse to a jailhouse, the world don't know you. You know, you just a small fly on the wall trying to see what's going on. And when I said it's a political trial, well, you got to understand, I lived in Monroe. Jesse Helms was the senator at that particular time, which was from Monroe and Wingate. President Bush, which was a Republican, which he felt like he was disrespected. And who gonna catch the blame? Me. Everything's shifting this way, especially when we got to go into the trial and everything.
Right, and we'll get to all that. I just want to kind of build a timeline here.
All right.
So here you are gambling with Jordan and a bunch of other guys, you know, while the rest of the team is at the White House. And I guess during that particular stretch, Jordan, I guess, was losing a lot. I guess he owed more than $100,000 to other people, including Eddie Dow and so forth. And I guess during the course of this gambling session, he ended up owing you $57,000.
Yes.
And since he didn't have the cash, he wrote you a check.
Yes. Yeah, he wrote me a check. I mean, you know, a check from Mike is a good check. It's not like rubber, that ain't gonna bounce. So Anybody in their right mind would say, hey, write me a check, I'll get it later. So he wrote me the check, and I never received it, because when I did receive it, I had it one day and the federal government took it the next day.
Right, because, well, you got the check in your hand, but I guess during that time, what you didn't know is that you were under investigation for a suspected cocaine trafficking deal.
Yes.
And your phone was being tapped this whole time.
Oh, yeah. I didn't find that out until trial time. I mean, man, they watch me for ain't no telling how long. And then they tapped my phone and set up for surveillance across the street at the Jeep place on Roosevelt Boulevard. I mean, down on Highway 74. No drugs. No drugs. They stopped me in the airport. No drugs. They send different type of women around me trying to find out if I had drugs. No drugs. But at that particular time, when the federal government really, really peeped their hand, is when I went in that courtroom. I went in that courtroom when I said, you know, I'm going in here on trust and faith alone in my Lord Jesus Christ. Because when you don't do nothing, you can't get nothing. Nothing from nothing, leave nothing. But if you look at the articles and everything, I'm a kingpin with $45. A young man come in this world, a kingpin with 45. I'm about worse than Al Capone.
Well, while they were tapping your phone, I guess that they had actually recorded you making plans to try to not pay taxes on that $57,000.
Well, that's what they say. But they, you know, the only thing that I can say is my accountant knew how to pay the government their taxes. That's what they was getting paid for. The $57,000 was going toward purchase of a whole new area to build another driving range, which had, I don't know how many acres of land, which was less than 3 miles away from the pro shop.
Okay. And I guess right around that time, they found you with $153,000 in cash at the Charlotte airport?
There we go again. I'm a drug dealer now. I'm a kingpin. I leave Charlotte. I'm leaving with that. I had more than that. I was going to Texas to play a $25,000 match. That's 25 on the front, 25 on the back, 25,000 overall. If you double, you got $150,000 that you got to pay off. I don't want no check. I didn't bring no check. I wanted cash money. So when I left Charlotte, I asked the lady at the airport, what do I need to do? This is, I'm traveling with money. She said, as long as it's in your possession, you're okay. When I come back from Texas, because the match didn't go off, when I come back from Texas, my bag is the last bag to come down the surveillance. When I walk out to get the bag, zoop, here they come. They questioned me about dope, they didn't find not 1 ounce of dope. No drugs or nothing. But they kept the money.
Right, because they kept that money, they seized the check,
right,
and you got indicted on drug and money laundering charges.
Right.
And I guess you tried to get the $57,000 check back because you told them it was a loan from Michael Jordan.
Right.
And when they talked to Michael Jordan...
It was a loan that I loaned him the money to pay off his debts and part of the money that I won.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
And when the Charlotte Observer actually talked to Jordan about that check, he said it's totally true. It's a loan. And that's when things started to go kind of bad.
Well, I mean, the only thing that I can say about that is when I left Hilton Head, I know how much money Jordan's supposed to send me. I know what I gave him out of my pocket. I know what I have won. And partially, what like I said, whatever Mike said between that and then, he knew the truth I did too. And another thing that I learned a long time ago, the only way that you can tell a lie is when you got to know the truth yourself. How can you know the truth? If you don't know the truth, you don't know if you're telling a lie or not.
Well, at one point, Jordan actually changed the story.
Right.
He said, I was caught off guard by the question and I was too ashamed of what I had done. But when I realized my mistake and discovered the background of the people I had been with, I told the truth and offered a public apology. And then at one point, you get charged with money laundering and distributing 11 pounds of cocaine. And you were facing a mandatory life sentence if you were convicted for the cocaine charge.
That's right.
I mean, how did it feel? You were what, in your late 30s at that point?
Well, the same way that you would feel when you walk in that courtroom and you walk in that chamber with the judge. Now, I want you to ask yourself this question. The judge said, well, I'm going to give you a plea agreement. I said, okay, what is it? He said, well, number one, you need to help yourself. You need to do some things to help yourself where you can get from up under this. I said, well, he said, well, number one, pay me $47,000. I said, when do you want it? In the morning, right now, next week, whenever you want it, you can get it. He said, well, after you pay me $47,000, I'm going to give you 20 years in the penitentiary. I said, what? 20 years in the penitentiary now? This is a plea agreement. He didn't want no plea agreement. All he wanted was for me to say no, and let's go to trial. When you go to trial, here we go. Here go the circles. Number one, you got to bring Michael Jordan in there. When you bring Michael to Charlotte, everybody's coming to Charlotte. Everybody want to come and see the show. Everybody want to come and get a part of that. Some people careers was made from it.
Okay. So now you come to trial, and I guess at one point the government seized your house, seized 4 cars, and pretty much wiped you out.
Well, not only that, I mean, just remember what I said when I went in to take that plea agreement. I don't know if I said it or not, but I repeat it again. The judge said, if you don't help yourself, we're going to take everything you got and you're going to jail. And I said to myself, what am I going to jail for? Buying a car? hunting. Now, if you look at it, they took $57,000, $153,000. They added the 53 and the 153,000 and the 57,000 to give you over $200,000. Now, once they give you over $200,000, your sentence level will go higher and you get more time. Now, if you don't, now, I mean, this, and then coming right back to when I say a political thing, like this book will tell you, once Michael did not go to the White House and Jesse Helms was in the Senate, was a senator at that particular time from Monroe and Wingate, that is a political slap in the face. If you look at the simple things, when you look at the Last Dance in the movie, episode 6, where they portrayed me and Jesse Helms. Jesse Helms said, quote, that when he beat Harvey Gantt for the election for the Senate, they won't have no party in the hood tonight.
Well, around that time, the NBA actually started investigating Jordan's gambling habits, as well as he's being tied into this trial. And he was actually subpoenaed to testify, I guess, against you, right?
Not necessarily. He wanted to tell the truth.
Okay. But he was brought in by the prosecution, not the defense.
Yes.
Okay. So by 1992, that's when the trial actually begins. By that time, Jordan had already won a second NBA championship. So his star was really just massive at this point. You know, he'd also won his second gold medal at the Olympics, and the sneakers were going crazy and so forth. He actually, I guess, managed to sneak into the courtroom by doing a decoy. I guess he had like a limo pull up on one side and he snuck in the other, something like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't know which way he was coming in. I didn't know which way he was leaving. But I do know this. After the big show is over, I served my time in prison. Little simple things that I learned while I was in prison. Look at the small picture. Well, before Jordan came to Charlotte to give his testimony, the federal government had sent one of the district attorneys to interview Jordan before he could come to court. Now, not knowing, but deep down in my heart and knowing him as an individual, Jordan had told him there was no drugs around me, period. No beer, no liquor, no nothing. So if he tell him that, but still the government say, well, here goes, we got a drug dealer now. $45 worth of dope. We taking everything he ever earned, everything he ever worked hard for, because he don't give us no information whatsoever on Mr. Michael Jordan or whoever. Because I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't raised to tell a lie on somebody to save myself. How can you face yourself in the mirror and you done told a lie on somebody which is not true?
Well, Jordan took the stand.
Right.
He admitted the $57,000 check that he gave you was not a business loan. And he said the money was used to cover gambling losses that weekend. During that time, the prosecutors were actually saying that you were a courier for kilos of cocaine for one of Charlotte's biggest drug dealers. And they were trying to actually hammer that home. And at the end of the trial, the jury deliberated for 4 hours, and you were convicted for 5 counts of money laundering, 1 count of gun possession, but the drug charges got thrown out.
Right.
Okay. So ultimately, you beat the big charge of life in prison because the drugs, but you did get caught up in the money laundering charges. And you were given, was it 9 years in prison?
9 years in prison. Well, the 9 years is with the 200,000 that they added up, that the government added up. That was the enhancement to make it to 9 years. And my thing was, when I bought Ned Johnson a Mercedes for $41,000, I bought the car. We paid $1,000 down, $20,000, because I felt like I didn't have nothing to hide. Because he was a client that came to my golf shop that wanted me to give lessons to him and his family. And then when he came up with the idea, he wanted to buy his girlfriend a car and didn't want his wife to know anything about it. That's why I bought the car. If the records would speak, the car dealership told the same story like I'm telling you. That's why we came to the dealership. That car stayed in my name for 3 years. I didn't know it. I thought they were going to get it changed when he gave it to the girlfriend. That's how I got the money laundering charge.
Okay. So you're going through this trial. You haven't been sentenced yet. And then the next year, in 1992, Eddie Dow, who I guess was part of the crew that you guys gambled with together, ended up dead.
Yes.
And when they went through his belongings, they found a $108,000 cashier's check from Michael Jordan.
That's from playing poker.
Exactly. So then the NBA launched another investigation into Michael Jordan's gambling. I think at one point, one of the other guys at Esquinas had wrote a book, Michael and Me, Our Gambling Addiction.
Well,
which, did you know Esquinas?
Yes, I know that. I mean,
Okay.
Richie, I know them very well. And I don't know anything about his betting with Jordan, but he wouldn't give me a bet.
Right. He said at one point Jordan owed him $1.2 million.
Well, it's possible. I'm not going to deny it because I don't know. But what I do know is this. I don't see how it could be that much of whatever it was gambling for, because it was hard for me to see how Richie could be Michael at that particular time.
Okay. So then 1993 rolls around. You get sentenced to 9 years in prison.
Right.
With no parole. In June, that's when the NBA actually starts their second investigation on Michael Jordan. I guess he had ran up $1 million in gambling losses to a San Diego businessman. And then in July 23rd of that year, Michael Jordan's father gets killed. And I actually interviewed one of the guys who was involved in the murder. And we talked about the whole situation, because at the time, the rumor was that his dad got killed over gambling debts, which in fact, there was no truth to it. It was really just a couple of 18-year-old kids who lived in a trailer home had a chance to basically steal a car and end up killing the guy who they didn't know was Michael Jordan's father. And then that same year in November, Michael Jordan retires, and the whole NBA investigation ends 2 days later. So essentially, he never really got investigated for the gambling. When you heard about all that happening, what did you think?
Well, I was in Seagoville, Texas, when his father got killed, and what's so funny about that was, when I was sentenced in Charlotte, I'm sentenced to 9 years in federal prison. the judge had told me, like I said before, I'm gonna take everything you got. I had to pay my own way from Charlotte to turn myself in Texas. And when Jordan's father when they came out and asked me about it, I didn't know anything about it because I'm under lock and key. And enjoying every minute of it under lock and key. That was some of the best years of my life in prison. You ask yourself, how could you be so happy and you locked up? Because I'm getting a thorough education about different forms and ways of people, how they live. In prison, you get more in prison than you would get in a 4-year college. You got doctors, lawyers, pimps, hustlers, child molesters. It doesn't matter. Gang bangers, mobsters. You can't get that at Duke, Carolina, or any ACC school or anywhere. But in federal institutions, you can get it if you know how to carry yourself in a respectable way. And getting back to Jordan's father, I can't tell you yesterday or tomorrow. I don't know anything about that. But, it's a bad situation when anybody loses a life.
Yeah, that was a horrible situation.
Yeah, bad situation.
Yeah, and the guy, one of the guys who did it, ended up making a hip hop music video
I saw that.
in his trailer home, wearing Jordan's father's ring and his chain. And they, of course, find all that. And, these guys are still both locked up in prison, decades later.
Yeah.
Well, by 2000, you get released from prison. You served 8 years. You were in 6 different states. But ultimately they let you out. How did it feel to finally walk out of that cell?
Well, after coming from 8 different states, using the term that the federal use, diesel therapy, you get comfortable, you got to move again. You get comfortable, you got to move again. So only thing that I can say is when I left, I returned wiser than I was before I had left. And the knowledge and friends that I had met within those institutional walls were things that I can cherish for the rest of my life. Because, you meet people, like I say, from all walks, ways of life inside of those walls that you would never meet while you're out here walking the free ground. You never be in a situation like that. I mean, Raymond Saraguses, Joey de Bellottes, all those mobsters, as we put it, I would have never met them. So I look back over the years and I cherish those moments. And it gave me enough wisdom to say, when you're on one side of the fence, you can speak on it. When you're on the other side of the fence, you can speak on it. I can't tell you anything on this side or that side if I've never been on both sides.
Well, in 2020, Michael Jordan's The Last Dance was released. And you had a segment in that documentary. When you watched it play out, did you feel like it was a fair assessment of what happened, or do you think that it was kind of unfair?
Well, I didn't know it was coming. I got a phone call say, well, you need to look at TV. I'm in the hospital with kidney stones, and I managed to look at it. It was a good segment, and Michael didn't have to put me in there, and that was a privilege for him to think to put me in there and gave me that much respect. And I will always, like I said, man, we never had a dull moment. Well, one time we had one. I had a jerry curl. If you look at the episode in The Last Dance, my hair was long. I was sitting on Michael's chair. Jordan walked over and said, "Oh man, if you put any of that jerry curl grease on my chair, me and you gonna get it on." I told him, I said, "Boy, let me tell you one thing. If you had hair, you would have a jerry curl too." And then we laughed it off and went on.
Well, ultimately, to this day, you've never actually talked to Jordan since 1991. And you did an article, you said, you're a billionaire. I mean, you're a billionaire and me, you were all right. The feds came to try to knock you out. I mean, you ain't got no career. If I cooperate with the government, I don't cooperate. They take everything I got. They take my life for 8 years. I can't get back and get that. When I come home, what you gonna do for me?
No, I never said that.
Okay. So
I never said that because I learned one thing about it. If you don't beat him out of it, Michael ain't gonna give you nothing. You got to beat him because it won't be fair to him. And I'm the type of individual that I work for what I get. Because from the outhouse to the penthouse to the jailhouse, those particular bricks that I laid in my life, never, how can you turn around and forget where you come from? And my motto today, get focused, get on track, you never have to look back. If you're looking back, pick up somebody. Think about a train. You have never seen a train back up and then hitch up and go forward. I always pick up somebody.
Well, you guys haven't spoken since 1991.
Right.
If Jordan were to walk in the room right now, what would you tell him?
I would tell him, I would be honest with him. I can't beat you right now. I'm an old man, and I know you hit your ball very well, further, longer. You had some of the best hands in the world. Well, I used to love to watch him get up and down and make the putts, and he'd smile at you, eat a honey bun. Like I say, we were just like kids out there having fun. But with me, it was strictly business. Kill a mosquito with a sledgehammer and keep it moving.
Well, there you have it. James Slim Bouler, a hell of a story with one of the biggest celebrities in the world, really.
Oh, yeah.
I used to always say after Michael Jackson died, Michael Jordan became the most famous person on earth. As well as arguably the greatest basketball player of all time and a very vicious gambler, which is what I've always heard.
Well, and I would say this right here to the people who will look at this. That book I wrote, Bet on Air and Lost It All, this is only a part of the documentary that we were talking about. If you get that book, you see the whole second half of it, especially the prison life, the rich and the famous, being in the penthouse. And Donald Trump, I won his first golf tournament.
Right, I heard about that. And you guys
I
actually
won Donald Trump's first golf tournament. That is why I say the outhouse to penthouse to jailhouse.
Right, I guess you and Trump hung out afterwards?
Well, after I got the money, I got out of Atlantic City.
There you have it. Well, James, I appreciate you sharing your story. You look great for your age, by the way. You look healthy. You look fit. A lot of people don't get to the age that you're at looking the way you do. Like you said, your doctor said you have the body of a 35-year-old, and I believe it. By not smoking, not drinking, not doing drugs, you definitely kept yourself in shape, and you get to experience this part of your life. And you never know. Maybe at some point Jordan will reach out to you, and the two of you could have another golf game or just shoot the shit about old times.
Well, that'd be great. That would be wonderful. All I would ask for, make it right. Make it fair. Give me my 5 ups and we can get down.
There you have it. Well, James, I appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you.
All the best. Peace.